according to the cloud. You're all set.
That's great. Thank you, Debbie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fred Chase, and I'm the chair of the Rules and Procedures Committee of the Bridgewater Town Council. It is now 7 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order today, Tuesday, October 8th. And let me just refer to my agenda briefly, which is now out of reach. I think that we have two prior meeting minutes that we need to consider for approval. So the first is for the meeting of the Rules and Procedures Committee that was held on August 28th, 2024. And I would entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Oh, I was muted. So second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. And we will do this, if you will, Debbie, by roll call.
Certainly. Councilor McKinnon,
Yes.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
and Councilor Chase.
Yes,
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
thank you. And the second meeting minutes for approval tonight would be for the Rules and Procedures Committee meeting minutes of September 9th, 2024. And I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the meetings of September 9th, 2024.
Thank you.
I will second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And if you would, please, Debbie.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
Councilor Chase,
Yes,
and Councilor McKinnon.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
great. I thank you. And we can move on to the, just checking my agenda once again, to the public comment session for this evening. And I think that we have at least one member of the public in attendance. Could you find out, Debbie, if anyone cares to address the council, the committee?
It's just Carlton online. I don't know if he wants to speak or not. He is unmuted.
I would like to speak if I could.
Certainly, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm going to walk through your the admin code pieces. I'm hoping that you will vote on each individual one of these items individually. That's my first piece. I want to make a point on the second page, part 2, administrative code, offices and standards. There's nothing in there. Basically, it says the term. I'm trying to see. Except that the term of office for counselors shall begin on the next business day following the election. Actually, you can't do business as a counselor until you're sworn in. So there's nothing in there that has, as you will recall, the town clerk in the past would swear you in. So I think, and you can do it individually, but that should state that you have to be sworn in to do business. That's my first point. My second point is in terms of the Section 2 Affordable Housing Trust. I sent Fred some detailed comments on that. Mass General Law Section 55C enables each town and city to form an quote unquote affordable housing trust fund unquote. And that is basically the terminology that this proposed change should stick with. I would ask that you not adhere to changing from trust to committee. The one thing, so I think it needs to not have a name change because trusts are legally required documents. The current Affordable Housing Trust is deeded property. It's in the Plymouth County Register of Deeds, and I don't think we need to change that at all. And I'm worried about the legality of changing this. I do agree with the fact that it has some major text in there affecting equal access and that kind of thing. I don't have a problem with that text necessarily. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly. In Section 7, Community Preservation Committee, if you choose to change the name from Affordable Housing Trust to Committee, that's fine. But if you choose not to and leave it alone, that shouldn't stay in there. These aren't paged, so I can't figure out where I am. In terms of Section 12, Elder Affairs Commission, I would like to see a definition of older adults. Elderly, like myself, has some meaning to me. Older could be somebody that's 65 or 60. So I think that lacks a definition of what you really mean and a citation. I also think a reference should be added to the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in order to, and their website, in order to give a little bit more credibility to that whole committee. I think the deletions and additions of that are fairly decent there. On the interrelationship, Director of Elder Affairs, that's great. Department, the problem I have is I don't see a department defined in that. I may be wrong, but I think they're referring to the senior center, the director, and I don't see how a department's named there. So I would think we want to clarify that. On section, yeah, same thing on number 3, town council, town council apprised the needs and concerns of older adults population. I think again, we need to think about that word older and what it means in today's whatever. And the reference there, they're striking out something that's a trust. I don't know if this trust fund is active. I don't know if it's legally required. I think we need to do a bit more due diligence on that. Maybe someone can explain that one more. On section 17, historical commission, I absolutely think changing from historical to advisory and ministerial is an absolute must. They've been asking for that for, as far as I know, for over a year. I will interject here. There are 2 other committees, commissions, boards that are requesting and have asked to become ministerial. One is the Parks and Rec Commission, and one, believe it or not, is the Library Board of Trustees. They're advisory. I think that's wrong. But that's not on your agenda for tonight. I concur totally with striking the Housing Partnership Committee. That's an arcane function that the government put out years ago, and the Affordable Housing Trust is much more modern language. And I'm almost done. I think I concur with the tree committee ad. I concur with the section 27 water and sewer board additions all the way through on that one. And I believe the citizens' comments. I have a problem with this one because when I look at the guidance from the Attorney General's office, it doesn't say you cannot respond. It says you may respond, and it advises people to, if you know the answer, and it also says you are advised to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, not to wait for the town manager, not wait anybody else, but you, the council, take on your authorities and have it put on the agenda for the next meeting. That's, if you go into the Attorney General's website and look at it, you'll find that language. And I think that's all I have to say. I'll sit back and listen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlton. We appreciate your input. Debbie, are we still, is still the case? There's no other member of the public in attendance?
There's no one, just Carlton.
Okay, all right. Then I would suggest we close the public comment section and move on to the matters at hand. There are 2 items before us that were referred by the council. And the first is Ordinance D FY 24-007, a proposed ordinance to the Administrative Code, Chapter 1, Article 2, Section 1. This refers to the proposed adoption of the Mullen Rule in the town of Bridgewater. We have spoken about it before, but in just a very few number of words, the Mullen Rule refers to a state statute. It's chapter Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D, which permits municipalities with boards, commissions, or other multiple member appointed bodies, if they conduct in their regular course of business adjudicatory hearings, then by adopting the Mullen Rule, the Mullen Rule, I'll describe in a second, would relate to, it would be available for those particular boards and commissions and committees. So what the Mullen Rule would do is it enables a member of one of these multi-member boards or commissions to participate in discussion and voting of matters that are before their respective board or committee, even if they have missed not more than one meeting during which that particular matter had been discussed. And this would relate in our town to the Planning Board, to the Conservation Commission, and to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Those three bodies do conduct adjudicatory hearings. And what that simply means is that each of them, in discharging their responsibilities under their respective statutes that govern what they do, the state statutes, they conduct hearings and issue rulings. So, for example, the Planning Board will issue permits, for example, when they are the so-called special permit granting authority for various kinds of projects in town. The Conservation Commission issues orders of condition with respect to primarily environmental matters involved in land use that come before them. And the Zoning Board of Appeals, of course, issues variances. So these bodies all conduct hearings, make decisions, and issue rulings. And those rulings, unless any of them are actually challenged in a court proceeding, in a judicial proceeding, those rulings will stand and will be upheld by the courts of the Commonwealth. So those are the adjudicatory proceedings. And the Mullen Rule is intended to help boards and committees that engage in that type of process to always be assured of having, or more likely be assured of having, a quorum of voting members who can take those actions. And presently, for towns that have not adopted the Mullen Rule, there could be, and this is the case in Bridgewater right now, there are members of various boards and committees who cannot continue to participate because they will have at some point missed a meeting during which an ongoing matter has been discussed. So the Mullen Rule provides for a fix for that situation. And the fix is very simply that member who has missed not more than one meeting in that case can sign a certificate to the effect that they have read the minutes of that missed meeting, they have viewed the video of the proceedings that they were not in attendance for, whatever it takes for them to become familiar with what went on in their absence. And by signing that certificate, which then becomes public record as part of the ruling that's before that body, they would be able to participate in any final dispositive vote to issue that permit or that order or whatever it might be. So that's what the Mullen Rule is all about. This was referred to us, or I should say it was initially read before the council on June 4th. And I did send to each of the committee members today, not sure if you had a chance to see it, but it's really pretty straightforward. Several minor edits to the document as it came in your package for the meeting tonight. The first is simply as it stands right now before us, it refers to Article 2 of Chapter 1 of the Administrative Code. And that designation, that citation is erroneous. It should refer to Article 3. And so that's the first change that I'm proposing to be adopted by us tonight. with respect to this particular ordinance. The second is that, and by the way, that was actually pointed out by Michael Dutton himself back on June 4th when we first, when this was first read to the council. The second change is a matter that was suggested also back in June by Jason Rollins, the town attorney. And he simply thought that in the body of the language itself, that we should include reference to the statute, to Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D. So what's before you are, what I had sent to each of the members tonight was simply a recap of those changes that I propose to be adopted as amendments to the ordinance as it stands before us now. So let me begin to just open it up to see if there are any discussion, any questions from either of the members in attendance tonight on this matter.
So I have nothing negative to say about this. I did read the emails and I have them up right now because I am on my phone at the same time too. And I definitely would make motions to get those both on there. I remember when we did bring this up in June and I was for it then. And I do think as long as we just go by what Jason and Mike said, that this should be pretty much seal and deal.
Okay, well, thank you, Brad. And Paul, do you have any comment or question?
Sorry, Fred, I don't have any comments or questions on the two particular amendments that you just referenced. Is that what we're talking about now, or do you want comments on the entire piece? Sorry.
Well, you can be free to discuss any portion of it, if you'd like.
I had a question that I was thinking about that I wrote down in regards to, I'm not sure off the top of my head without digging deeper into all the boards and commissions, but do any of our boards, commissions, or other have attendance requirements for folks to be showing up to? And if they do, sorry, would this supersede those requirements?
Okay, I'm quite sure that other boards and commissions do not have such requirements. Because you know, where would they be published? You know, in other words, it's the council rule. We have council rules for the entire council, and those are published rules. And we refer to them. Well, for example, we just had an occasion to suspend the rules to, you know, permit someone to speak, or when we suspend the rules so that we can move an item in the agenda sequence. And we can do that because we have a published rule that says this is the way it's going to happen, but we can also override that rule by vote in any particular circumstance. And once in a while, we have occasion to do that. To the best of my knowledge, none of the other boards and committees have procedural rules such as we, the council, do. And I think it makes sense to me that only these bodies that have adjudicatory proceedings would, because, you know, that's where I mentioned the courts earlier. And let's suppose you're before the planning board and you're seeking a approval of a site plan or a special permit for a project, and your project is denied. Well, you know, your recourse is through the courts. And so the planning board would have to furnish the entire, you know, the entire record of that transaction, of that whole proceeding, to the court in the course of a lawsuit. It's not the case that anyone is, you know, likely to be, you know, requiring such from the tree committee or from the, you know, take your pick, any of the boards that we're going to be discussing in a matter of minutes. So I think that there are no other procedural rules that the various committees and boards have adopted for themselves, because if they have, where are they? They have to be written somewhere, and I have no indication that they're written anywhere. So I think the short answer for you is that we know that the Mullen Rule would only apply to in our town, to the three bodies that we've discussed. And I'm not aware of the existence of specific rules for any other particular committees or boards.
Okay. And for the zoning board, I guess, we don't know, I guess, to your point, we don't know if they have a quorum requirement on their voting.
They would, because just as we are all, our default rules for anything that's not in our prescribed written council rules, the default rules for us would be Robert's Rules of Order.
Sure.
And the same is true for the boards and committees. They need to follow that as well. So, but as far as any particular specific rules for any of them, I'm not aware of any such.
So this new legislation would supersede those quorum requirements in those cases, because we're then essentially throwing quorum out the window in some cases.
No,
right?
It doesn't really speak to quorum per se at all. In other words, when I did mention quorum, I did so only in the context of what the Mullen Rule is intended to fix. The problem where you might actually get to a point where you've got a quorum present, sufficient to conduct business, right? Like the council has to have 5 councilors, right? Well, that's the quorum to conduct business. But if you then have to start deleting members of the board from a particular vote because they're not qualified because they missed a meeting on that particular transaction, then you don't have quorum for the purpose of taking the vote. So it doesn't really address at all the problem of quorum for the purpose of conducting business. It's only with respect to voting.
Okay.
And so it really does only affect the 3 particular boards that we've mentioned.
Right. And I just saw in that second paragraph, you make note, nothing in this section shall change, replace, negate, or otherwise supersede all applicable quorum requirements.
That's right. So it doesn't affect that at all. You're
Right.
absolutely correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have anything further then. Thank you.
Okay. So you see in the message I had sent to you each, the specific language I had proposed for amendment. What I didn't mention was that I had recommended the change from the language that reads a member of any town board, committee, or commission. I had struck that, and I had proposed a member of any multiple member appointive body. The reason I had chosen that language instead was that's actually the language that Article 3 uses, and I thought for the purpose of consistency, let's try to keep everything as consistent as we can with respect to the naming of, what bodies are governed by this, by the Mullen Rule. So that's actually the specific term that this ordinance would fall under Article 3. So we're changing the article number. These are the amendments, the article number from 2 to 3. That inclusion of language reading multiple member appointed body, and then simply the reference to the charter. So it would begin in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D, a member of any multiple member appointed body of the town. I'm sorry, appointed body when holding an adjudicatory hearing shall not, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the full extent of the changes I've proposed. And I would entertain a motion for approval.
Do we need to do both since one's in F and then one's in the ordered category? And another question too, does that F need to change to a K?
The F is being changed to a K. That's correct, just because.
Alright. I'm just looking at this and it's black and not red, so I was just
Oh,
making
I'm
sure.
sorry. No, you're correct. So the F is being changed to a K. That's where it falls
Yeah.
in the existing administrative code. If we put it under letter K, it's a new entry, a new letter K.
So we can do that all in one motion?
Oh, because, yeah, so what we would be doing, let me make it clear.
Yep.
What we should offer is a motion to approve the amendments. We should do it in 2 votes. A motion to approve the amendments as we've discussed.
Mhm.
And then we should have a second motion and vote for the purpose of recommending this for adoption by the town council.
Yep.
So,
So I would make a motion to adopt the new amendments that we just discussed. That's in this email.
okay,
So changing Article 2 to Article 3, the F to K under the ordered paragraph, and then change the F to K, and then after the hearing, the period, where change that to in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Section 39, Chapter 39, Section 23D,
Yep.
comma, and then a member of any multiple member body.
that's right. Okay, those are the changes. That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Debbie, if you would conduct a vote for us?
Certainly. Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, that's great. And I would also entertain a motion for referral, a recommendation for approval to the town council.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And once again, Debbie, if we could have a vote.
Sure. Counselor Chase,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Murphy.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, that's great. I thank you both for that. And we have one further item. And as a member of the public has already alluded, this refers to proposed ordinance FY 25-002, revisions to the administrative code. These were brought forward in August, sponsored by Council President Perry. And we can take a look at each of these provisions separately and discuss them, I think is our best procedure at this point before we consider a vote on anything. The first is with respect to boards, committees, and commissions. It refers to offices and standards, term of office, and the point of this proposed amendment is to require that the first date for the, well, let me just read it so I don't try to goof it up by paraphrasing it when it's all right in front of us. The term of office of all elective town officers shall be 3 years, beginning on the second Monday following, and here's one of the changes, following the election, our annual April election, and continuing until their successors are qualified. And here's the full text of the amendment. Except that the term of office for councilors shall begin on the next business day following the election. That's the end of the amendment. It goes on to the existing language, which says simply, terms of office of town councilors shall be so arranged that the terms of 3 of the councilors shall expire at each annual town election. So the point was raised by Dr. Hunt that indeed, as we all know,
You get sworn in.
councilors need to be sworn before they can assume their position, which is not stated here. I suspect it was intended. I suspect it was really thought to be implicit in, the taking of the office. Nonetheless, it's an important point, and one I think that probably should not be overlooked. So I am inclined to agree that just adding a few words with respect to the procedure of being sworn is probably good to do. Does anyone else have an opinion on that one way or the other?
I definitely agree with that, and I'm trying to look at it right now, and I'm almost thinking that we should strike on the next business day and go. I'm trying to think of the proper term to say here.
Well,
Again, once sworn in following the election.
well, see, I think that what this proposed amendment is trying to do is to more specifically nail down precisely when, because that wasn't really addressed by the existing ordinance. And that's why this proposed amendment to refer to the next business day was put in. What we could do is we can add a provision with respect to having been sworn, and still keep the language, with respect to term beginning on the next business day. We could simply say, I'm just thinking this through on the fly, but for example, it could read, this is the part in red, the proposed amendment, except that the term of office for councilors shall begin, and then put, once duly sworn.
Yeah.
Let's just try that out for starters.
Yeah, no, that's around what I was thinking. That's just worded more proper.
Right. I think there's no reason to not have it. And, I just think it's important that, we just refer to that, because, I mean, obviously we've all done this. We know it's necessary, but we don't want anyone to, not that it's going to be overlooked by our town clerk, but, we just don't want it to be minimized, the importance of it. So, for example, it would say then, if we do this, except that the term of office for councilors shall begin, once duly sworn, on the next business day following the election. Does that?
I'd make a motion to make that amendment.
So, I guess the motion's on the floor.
No, discussion.
Sorry.
Oh, no, okay.
Sorry, Paul.
No, that's
Go ahead,
fine.
discuss. I'll withdraw my motion for now. Discuss.
Okay.
My brain's just working like crazy, like trying to process this. But so the term we're saying begins on that Monday, but they have to be sworn in. Fred, are we making that clear in the language that you provided?
So they have to be sworn in, and they have to be sworn in before they begin their term.
Right.
Right. Your term doesn't begin until you've been elected and sworn.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just read it again as I had, except that the term of office for councilors shall begin, once duly sworn, on the next business day following the election.
Okay, so the language is referring to the next business day after they've been sworn in now. Is that correct?
Well, yes, it would be, it's after the election and after they have been sworn. Then the next business day, they can assume their role.
Okay. I think that's fine.
Okay.
So I would make the motion again to put in your language in that in section D.
Okay, all right. That's great. And you second that? Okay. And well, why don't we do this? Well, I guess we really should vote on each and every, we really have to do it that way. I don't think it'll be as onerous as it may sound right now, but let's conduct a vote on that particular amendment. Debbie, could we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Councilor McKinnon,
Yes.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
and Councilor Chase.
Yes,
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
What,
okay.
Counselor Chase, if I could, one more time, I know we just voted on that piece. I don't know if we can comment on this, but that section doesn't speak to appointed officials, just elected officials. And my assumption would be that for both, they would be required to take the oath of office before business.
Well, that is true,
Yeah.
and that would continue to be true. Remember, we did add the words with respect to having been sworn, because it was raised by a member of the public, and we all agreed it was something that there's no argument about. Why not say it?
Yeah.
But the only matter before us is that section that refers to elective officials.
Okay.
So, so as the larger question, yes, it still would pertain to an appointed counselor. He or she would have to be sworn before they assume their role. But again, that's not a matter before us right now. We've only been referred to the section that deals with elected counselors.
Okay.
No. Section 2 refers to, this is the Bridgewater Town Council composition and authority. There shall be 9 members of the Bridgewater Town Council, 1 counselor elected from each, just changing the word precinct to district. So it's 1 counselor elected from each district and the remaining elected at large. So we know we have 3 district counselors and we have a total of 6 at-large counselors. That's our constitution. That's the manner that we're constituted right now. So it simply makes a change by deleting the word district. I'm sorry, deleting the word precinct and inserting the word district and referring to the remaining counselors who are the counselors elected at large. So that's the full substance of the amendment. Are there any questions or comments about that?
Well, no, I
No?
can make a motion to approve as written.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second that. I got nothing.
Great. Okay. Well, that's fine. And so Debbie, if we could vote on section 2.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor Chase,
Yes.
and Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay. Okay. The next is Article 3, multiple member appointive bodies, offices and standards. So the changes here, I'm not sure really what gave rise to this, but I'll just read the section as it stands for amendment. Eligibility for service, unless otherwise defined within this administrative code, any registered voter of the town of Bridgewater, except those who are 1, an elected official, 2, those whose written contract with the town bars them from holding any other elected or appointed position within the town, or 3, who would be ineligible to serve under Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, and or the town of Bridgewater town charter, are eligible for appointment to multiple member appointive bodies. So that is the full portion of the existing language with the amendments. The amendments are simply words referring to unless otherwise defined within this administrative code. And then the words are eligible for appointment to multiple member appointive bodies. So I think it is simply language to clarify the fact that anyone who is a registered voter in town who is not otherwise prohibited from holding an appointment to a board, committee, commission, etc., is eligible for appointment to multiple member appointive bodies. Once again, there's the phrase that kind of substitutes for stringing together the words, committees, commissions, or boards. So that is the full text of the proposed amendment to that section. Any comments or questions at all?
No.
No? Okay.
I got
Brad?
none from me either.
No? Okay.
This
All
one's
right,
pretty
good.
simple.
Is, I would consider a motion for approval.
So
Motion.
move. Or second.
Second.
Okay, great. Motion and a second. And Debbie, if we could please vote on Article 3.
Sure. Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor Chase,
Yes.
and Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, great. Okay, the next item is with respect to the Affordable Housing Trust. And we've heard earlier from Dr. Hunt, who had comments on this. And as I've indicated to each of you separately and previously, Dr. Hunt had communicated a concern about this matter to our town attorney. I followed up with the town attorney some days ago, having heard nothing in response at that time. And nothing further was heard until today. And today, the town attorney had reached me to say he didn't have receipt of the original email directed to him from Dr. Hunt. So I forwarded to him that email. He did then respond to me with the following message. He said, "Thanks, Fred. All new to me. Seems like there is some disconnect here. Should the council have specific questions on anything they are legislating, I would probably advise a memo stating the specific question be sent by the council to our interim town manager, and that she decide how, if at all, I am involved. Additionally, I want to make sure I am only weighing in on legal matters and not getting involved in any policy/legislating decisions outside of the legal requirements context. I hope that all makes sense." So Carlton had, you may remember, initially expressed concern. I think he touched upon this again this evening as to the legality of a portion of what is proposed before us. And so at that point, he reached out to our town attorney, as did I separately later. And I simply wanted to have some guidance as to, if there was any concern with respect to any legal issue. Now, as I sometimes have to say here, obviously we are not attorneys. We sometimes need to look at law in order to conduct our business in the Rules and Procedures Committee, basically to see if in fact there's, ideally, if there is some black letter law, some statutory law that we can look to assure us that the action that we're proposing to take is consistent with the provisions of law. Now, in areas like this, there's been a question raised as to the legality of this proposal before us. And that's really something that we're not in a position to answer by looking to any black letter law, any statute to get an answer. It's calling for a legal judgment. And we're not in a position to render a legal judgment. And our town attorney, I think, is not, he sees that there's potentially a legal question here, but it's wrapped up in a policy matter, in a legislative consideration, which understandably he doesn't want to become involved in. It's not his job. He cannot do that. What he has suggested, as I had read to you, was that we instead send concerns or seek clarification from the town manager as to what would be the real impact of this, and also to the extent that she might feel that there's a legal issue requiring input from the town attorney, that she direct him then to do that, to consider response to us. So, you know, for example, Carlton just this evening has, you know, raised questions with respect to the Affordable Housing Trust. I certainly know nothing about the Affordable Housing Trust, and I'll freely admit that. So I don't know that this proposed amendment, as it reads, gives me any understanding as to the implications of what is being done here. So personally, I feel in all good conscience that I can't take action on this. I'm not sure what's being proposed. Now, you may remember that although this is being sponsored, this legislation is being sponsored by President Perry, I believe that these proposed amendments were all either drafted by or at least assembled by our former town manager, Mr. Dutton. So we don't have him to go to look for an explanation on this. The best we could do would be to take Attorney Rollins' advice and to seek clarification from the current town manager, and if necessary, a legal opinion. So with all that being said, I would appreciate comments from either of you. I'm inclined to think that we simply do nothing with this proposed section. We move on to other matters. We report it to the council as such. We ask the current town manager to provide some clarification along with any other questions we have about it. And at a future time, if necessary, we take it up again.
I mean, I'm not very educated on said subject either, and I'm definitely not an attorney, so I can 100% back what you just said on just moving on after this, but it's up to, let's hear what Paul has to say.
Do you think that's go ahead,
I agree
Paul.
also. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's the best thing we can do, and I'd be happy to discuss it with Blythe to, you know, seek her future advice on this, but it's nothing urgent, and it's certainly something we don't want to go down the wrong path. And I think until we have clarification, we can't intelligently move forward on it. So I don't think, personally, I don't think that necessarily requires a vote. Would anyone feel more comfortable if we have a vote? We're not taking any action. I guess we're taking the action of complete inaction, but I suppose for the sake of formality, let's have a vote. And my suggestion, as we described, is simply to not take this matter up at the moment. So
Make a motion to not take up section 2, Housing Trust Committee, or Affordable Housing Trust, whatever it is in the article there.
Okay. And
Just move on to the next sections.
okay, that's good. And Paul, you're in agreement with that? Is that okay? All right. All right. Again, for the sake of formality, Debbie, if we can just record it as a vote.
Sure. Counselor Chase,
Yes.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
and Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Great. Thank you. Next item is section 7, Community Preservation Committee. And as Dr. Hunt had indicated to us, the only amendment proposed here assumes that we had taken action on the previous amendment and adopted it because it would change the name of the Affordable Housing Trust to the Housing Trust Committee. So since we have taken no action on that, we really cannot take any action on this. So we could dispose of this, I think, very similarly. And why don't we I'll entertain a motion to do just the same thing here. No action.
I'll make the
Okay.
motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. I'll second it. I haven't done anything tonight. All right. So if Debbie, if we could have a vote on section 7.
Sure. Brad's watching the
Oh,
Bruins game.
no,
that's
I was
why.
muted. I was muted. I made the motion. I even.
He's watching the Bruins game. Counselor Chase,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Murphy.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
It's in that commercial right now, Debbie. All right, come on. I didn't notice I was muted. I got my dog chewing a bone right next to me.
Trying to watch the game.
Yeah.
All right. Section 12, the Elder Affairs Commission. I think as you can see, there are several proposed amendments to the existing language. We can go through these changes. I'm happy to read them. I don't have any particular concerns about them. We did have a comment from Dr. Hunt, who did make a point that the term older is not a defined term. And I don't know if, well, let's put it this way. I don't know what may have been the origin of that proposed change. It's not clear to me that it is in fact intended to be any different from the use of the word elder or elderly, although I wonder if perhaps there's just a feeling that there's a certain connotation with the word elderly. It's perhaps there's a kind of pejorative implication with respect to that word. I don't know. Maybe that's partly what was considered here. I don't know more than that. I just don't know that. I just don't know that there's any further explanation to the proposed change in language. The subject of the actual amendment, you can see it refers to the purpose dedicated to ensuring that the older adult population lives and ages well in their community of choice. Some language in the existing admin code was struck thereafter. Some new language inserted, which reads, the Elder Affairs Commission assists in the collection of facts and statistics affecting the health and welfare of older adults, encourages the development of programs for older adults, identifies the pertinent needs of the community's older adult population, educates, and to enlist the support of the community on the needs of older adults, performed such other duties as may be prescribed by law or as directed by the town manager. That's all new language. Language that was struck reads, the Elder Affairs Commission members also serve as trustees of the Senior Center funds. The commission makes recommendations to the Director of Elder Affairs and the Department of Public Works Director regarding the maintenance of the Senior Center facility, capital needs and minor repairs, supplies related to operation of the building, and replacement of necessary items to maintain the building in good order. The commission recommends capital spending from the Senior Center Trust funds. The Elder Affairs Commission is an advisory and ministerial committee of the town. So that language was struck. My sense of this entire amendment is that it is seeking to clarify the roles of the Elder Affairs Commission and the Director of Elder Affairs. That's Emily Williams, who runs the day-to-day operation at the senior center. So it strikes me that it is seeking to clarify and delineate roles. They struck a lot of that language about, kind of, the upkeep of the building and the public works director, et cetera, et cetera. I gather they just thought that was extraneous, and it could simply be said that the director of Elder Affairs, can make such determinations as needed from time to time. I don't know personally that there's any more impact than that. To me, it looks to be a matter of cleanup and clarification more than anything. But I'd be interested if either of you have any comments or questions about it.
Nothing from me on that.
Yes, I was just about to say I was muted again. This dog in the bone. Nothing from me.
Okay. Well, personally, I see much less substance to this. I think it's, again, more a matter of, I don't want to say cosmetically, but it's more a matter of clarification of rules and kind of cleanup of the language. So I don't personally have any particular issue with this, and I certainly think it's otherwise, as it appears before us, in proper order. I would entertain a motion for approval.
Yeah, Councilor Chase, just before you do that, I know there were questions about the term older adult, and it seemed to me that the research behind that is that government is moving more towards that term as more of a neutrality term as opposed to elderly. And so the CDC and the Department of Justice also use older adult in terms of referencing that population. And it seems to me that both of those particular government entities refer to that as persons over 65. And so that's how those two just specific departments use that language. And I think that's where things are moving to, is my understanding of eliminating the term elderly and replacing it with older adult.
Well, that's a really good observation. I appreciate that, because my sense was that it was, for all practical purposes, synonymous with elderly, but it was maybe you would say, it's a gentler term. I mean, I think that there, I think it's probably a preferable term these days. So I'm glad you pointed that out, and I think you're probably right. Okay, well, if anyone would care to put forward a motion for approval.
Is this for all of section 12?
Yes. Did you have
Just
any?
making sure. Yep. No, I'd make a motion to approve such amendments for section 12.
I would second.
Okay, all right, thank you. Debbie, could we have a vote on section 12?
Of course. Councilor McKinnon,
Yes.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
and Councilor Chase.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay. And next is section 17, the Historical Commission. A very simple change, something that was also touched upon briefly by Dr. Hunt. And the change is simply to numbered paragraph 5, which reads, the Historical Commission is an advisory and ministerial committee of the town. So it is adding the term ministerial to the description of the activities of the Historical Commission. Any comments or questions? Any discussion about that at all?
No, I do think this is good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Councilor Chase, I don't necessarily disagree with the amendment as written. I would just ask, are there other cases where a board serves as both advisory and ministerial? It seems strange to have both in there.
No, there are. In fact, I would have to look through the code to look for specific examples, but there are definitely boards and commissions in the town that have a combined role as advisory, and ministerial. There are actually bodies that have a combined role of advisory, ministerial, and regulatory.
Okay.
And of course, there are some multi-member bodies, to use the correct term, that have a role described as simply advisory. So they're all very distinct. And if you look through the code, through the admin code, each body in its own respective section does refer to what its status is. You know, is it simply advisory or is it something more than that? So here the importance of the word is to give this further authority to the Historical Commission, which Dr. Hunt correctly pointed out is in fact something that the chairman, David Moore, has been seeking for some time. And here I can see that it's obviously it had risen to the level where the town manager felt it was important to make that clear. So that's what it does. Any other comment or questions, or
I make a motion to accept it.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. And Debbie, if we could have a vote on section 17.
Sure, Counselor Chase,
Yes.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
and Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, that is great. Thank you. So the next item is section 19, Housing Partnership Committee. And without having personal knowledge beyond what appears before us, I do agree with the comment that was made earlier. I believe that this entity, at whatever point it did exist, I don't believe it currently is in existence. And I think that's exactly what is being acknowledged here by the proposal to strike the entire section. I don't know more about the history of it. I can tell you that during my term on the council, I have never had occasion to become more familiar with or to do anything with or about the Housing Partnership Committee. So I suspect that it in fact has been likely functionally defunct for probably quite some time. So that's what I suspect. I don't know more, but what's being proposed is to strike in its entirety the entire section 19.
Counselor Chase, I'm assuming section 20 immediately after is similar reason. So if that's the case, I'm happy to make a motion to, if you'd like to do it separately, that's fine. I can make a motion to strike both those.
Okay. I think that's largely what's expected of us to conclude by this, and I have no difficulty with that. All right, is that a motion, Paul? We'll do it separately, but are you motioning for section 19 to be struck?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, and Debbie, if we could do that, have a vote on section 19.
Sure, Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, I thank you. And the master plan committee, we have the same situation, so.
I'd make a motion to strike section 20.
Okay, that's great. And
Second.
Paul, you're in agreement. That's terrific. Okay, if we could have a vote on section 20.
Train's coming by. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
I just dealt with it 2 seconds ago.
Did you? It's like, I hope I can hear. All right, Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes,
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
excellent. And we're in the home stretch. The section 26A, the tree committee. amendment is a pretty simple one. I know it's one that Mr. Ajamian has long sought. The amendment would read as follows. The seat held by the certified arborist, landscape architect, or an individual with comparable experience and training may be filled by a non-resident if no qualified resident is available and willing to fill the seat. Obviously, the problem is we haven't had a town resident with the appropriate qualifications, and I believe there's some indication that perhaps someone affiliated with the university, someone who is simply not a resident, would be willing to fill that role. Is there anyone care to make a motion with respect to that?
Unless Paul wants discussion. I mean, I'm all for this. This is needed for the town. This will definitely help the committee out too, for sure. So,
Okay, that's great.
any discussion, Paul?
No, none.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. That's great. Debbie, please, if you would, for section 26A.
Sure. Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
And more pages than I realized. Section 27, the Water and Sewer Board. The first paragraph is term of office. And the proposed amendment is to insert additional language describing qualifications. So right now, it reads, the existing language reads, there shall be a water and sewer board consisting of 3 members who shall serve for staggered 3-year terms. And what's being proposed is an amendment to insert the following language referring to the 3 members: have engineering or public health experience. So that's the whole point of the first portion of this amendment, is to impose this experience requirement for members to the Water and Sewer Board. I can go on if you would want to consider everything at once. The Water and Sewer Board, as it reads right now, the existing language says the Water and Sewer Board establishes rates subject to town council approval. The Water and Sewer Board is an advisory committee of the town. And the language as proposed is the Water and Sewer Board recommends user rates to the town manager subject to town council ratification, which I think is consistent with what has been our practice. I think it's really just clarifying, because we did, you'll remember, I want to say this year, we did approve proposed increases in water rates. And it did come to us from the town manager. We voted on it in council. We approved the new rates. So I think it's just intended to more clearly set forth exactly how this happens. So it doesn't suggest to me that it's any kind of change at all. The final proposed amendment is under the paragraph interrelationships. The current language reads, other bodies. The Water and Sewer Board interacts with multiple member appointed bodies as necessary to accomplish its purposes. The proposed amendment would read, the Water and Sewer Board interacts with, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I gave you the proposed amendment first. The proposed amendment before us reads, the Water and Sewer Board interacts with other multiple member appointed bodies as necessary to accomplish its purposes. The existing language specifies the Open Space Committee, the Economic Development Committee, and other. So I don't know if that gives rise to any concern on anyone's part. It seems to me it probably, again, just reflects reality, because how many other bodies is it likely that the Water and Sewer Board would legitimately have cause to interact with? As you can see in the existing language, what's provided is the Open Space Committee and the Economic Development Committee. And those have been struck, and just we're left with the proposed amendment reading that it would be other multiple member appointed bodies as necessary. So I don't think it is a substantive change. I kind of think it's cleaning up language.
Yeah, no, I definitely can agree with that. And I do actually like a lot that we added having engineer public health experience into the first sentence there. Or yeah, that's the second sentence, but section A.
Yeah, that is the only, as I see it, the only truly substantive change. And
Change,
I
yeah.
would agree personally. I think that it is likely a valuable thing to do. We certainly want to know that our new water and sewer facilities are going to be operated and managed by competent personnel. So I think that's just what that's driving at. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a motion for approval. Okay, and
Second.
and
Sorry,
and a
my
second.
phone was freezing. I have someone calling me.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Debbie, if we could have a vote on section 27.
Sure. Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay. And the final matter before us, drum roll please, with respect to town council rules and procedures. Section 14, citizen comments. Okay, this is, we can read the language as it actually appears here, but this is intended to describe the process by which citizen comments will be responded to. Obviously, as you know, we don't, by our practice, respond to citizen comments during the actual meeting in which the comment was raised. So let me just, there's this one paragraph, and this is pretty straightforward. The language as it appears currently. The Bridgewater Town Council encourages citizens to attend its meetings and welcomes their views on issues of import. A citizen open forum will be placed on each council agenda, and a citizen comment period will be included at the end of each agenda. Anyone may comment at this time for up to 3 minutes. Comments and/or inquiries should be made in a respectful manner and not cast aspersions on individual council members or the council as a whole. No changes suggested there. To strictly comply with the open meeting law, inquiries shall be responded to, if appropriate, at a future meeting of the town council where the inquiry response has been added to the agenda under the town manager's report or announcements from the president. Now, and there was a comment made in tonight's public comment section with respect to this, which we can get to. As our practice stands now, as you know, it is generally the town manager who will take on the responsibility for responding to a public comment or question at a future meeting during the town manager's report. And that would that would remain the case. That would remain the practice. What this is doing is it's providing for, firstly, should be responded to if appropriate. Okay, now, in our agenda each week, every other week now for our regularly scheduled town council meetings, this same language has been appearing for some time, for at least some months now, with those words, you know, a response will be delivered in the future if appropriate, et cetera, et cetera. So that is here now, and that's part of the change as proposed. I think the significance of that is simply that it's entirely conceivable to me that some public comment will be made because people are free to just say what's on their mind. Some comment could be made for which it would be inappropriate to respond. For example, I can remember in a recent meeting where a citizen spoke with respect to the issue of the POW MIA flag. This was some weeks ago. And in the course of his comments, he made some unrelated remarks, unrelated to the POW MIA flag, but which did relate to certain other flags that have been known to be raised on town property in recent years. And I think it's fair to say, I don't think I'm mischaracterizing, they were rather disparaging remarks. Now, he was not looking for an answer necessarily from the town manager at a future meeting with respect to that. But even if he had, I think that's a good example where it would be inappropriate for the town manager to pick that up, maybe to repeat the comments that were made, and then to give a reasoned response to it, because it would further amplify the disparaging remarks. So it's conceivable to me personally that remarks could be made for which it would not be appropriate. Now, that's an extreme example, but I think that's why that exists there. That's my take on it. Otherwise, the amendment does not alter what we currently have been doing, but it does bring this section of the admin code in sync with reality, with what we actually do now. So are there any comments or questions or feelings about this at all?
I have two quick comments. One being on the if appropriate. I agree with everything you said, Councilor Chase, and I think that needs to be addressed in here. I don't agree that appropriate is the correct verbiage that should be used here, because I think that's subjective language and it leaves a lot up in the air. I think something along the lines of if determined, or something that says that somebody will decide whether it goes on the agenda or not. I don't think having the language if appropriate is the right wording for that.
Okay.
And
Well,
but I want to be clear that I agree with everything you said there. I just don't think that it should be a subjective word that's in that section.
Okay. So we could modify that.
I kind of have the same feeling as Paul, but that is going to be kind of tricky to determine how to go around using if appropriate.
Right.
Well, let's say what we're saying, right? We're not saying that we're going to respond if appropriate. We're saying if somebody determines our response is I don't know, necessary, then it will be on the agenda, correct?
Well, that's right. Well, you're correct. Right. So in other words, typically the town manager, since it typically falls in their lap, is going to determine that, yes, someone asked about revenues from the marijuana sales. And so it's appropriate to respond to that. And so they'll make that determination and they'll respond to it. Because they've deemed it to be appropriate. I see what you're hoping to avoid, and I agree. We're not trying to be in a position to make judgments, value judgments on something that someone brings forward, but there can be things that just won't, merit response. It has to be the last thing of the evening, right? I mean,
Of course.
we got through everything else.
Oh, it's a good point though,
not-
from both sides, for sure. It is.
Not to minimize it, I because as you both well know, this can be an extremely contentious area, and we want to be in a position to give people an answer to questions about procedure, policy, things we do. But there are ultimately going to be some things that are going to be said that people might anticipate an answer to be coming back on, and it's it's hard to get away from the word appropriate.
Can I try, Counselor Chase? Could I propose the language
Take the
of
podium, please.
to strictly comply with the open meeting law? Inquiries shall be responded to when deemed necessary. And then and continue there. So changing the if appropriate to when deemed necessary.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if I'm being very picky about that. I understand that essentially they mean
No.
the same thing, but I think the word appropriate is just not appropriate for that spot.
Shall be respond to when deemed necessary.
Yes.
Okay, let me just,
It's a tricky one.
it is. Okay, so the sentence then would read, to strictly comply with the open meeting law, inquiries shall be responded to when deemed necessary at a future meeting of the town council. Well, okay, so we're using the word when, but we're not using it in the context of time. Because as the sentence goes on, it says at a future meeting of the town council. So we're not saying when in the context of time, we're saying, kind of upon the occurrence of, when
Yes.
deemed necessary. Responded to when deemed necessary. I think that's a good change. It's someone could also pick it apart and say, well,
What's
who
the
is it that's
necessary?
deeming it's necessary or not necessary,
Right.
But it does avoid use of the word appropriate, which I guess the issue at its heart is really that when we use the word appropriate, in the alternative, it would be something improper.
Right.
And so, what would be the, impropriety? And we know what we're speaking of, but it's hard to kind of convey that nuance.
Yes.
So, all right, so to strictly comply with the open meeting law, inquiries shall be responded to when deemed necessary at a future meeting of the town council.
And then do we want to make a motion on that piece, or can I continue on with one more quick change that I think will make a lot of sense?
No, why don't you go
Let's
ahead
see.
and we'll do this, yeah.
I would just like to strike the wording under town manager's report or announcements from the president. So I would like it to just read where the inquiry response has been added to the agenda, period. And I would say that I would eliminate the town manager's report and the announcements of the president, because I think there are several examples where an inquiry could be a presentation at the next meeting. It could be a discussion at the next meeting. And I don't think it's necessary that we limit ourselves to just those two options. I just think that's added language. So
Added to the agenda. Where the inquiry response has been added
to the agenda.
to the agenda.
So I can read the entire sentence if that makes more sense.
Okay, sure. Give it a
Where are
read.
we right now? I'm looking and
It's section 14, Brad. It's page 22 of the attachment, and it's
Yep,
in
I'm
the
on there
first
right now.
paragraph.
oh, okay, yeah. Yep,
So
it's in the
my
red, yep.
amendment in its entirety would be to strictly comply with open meeting law. Inquiries shall be responded to when deemed necessary at a future meeting of the town council where the inquiry response has been added to the agenda. Period.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Yeah. I mean, you make a point. There could be a discussion, or there could be something else that is going to address the issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that a motion, Mr. Murphy?
Well, that's my amendment, so somebody else would have to. Well, I'll make the motion. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. So we've got the two changes. It's the striking of the word appropriate, and in place using the words when deemed necessary. And in the section referring to the response, where the inquiry response has been added to the agenda, period,
Yes.
and striking the words after that.
Yes.
Okay, that's the motion. And Brad, did you have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, all right, great. Debbie, if we could have a vote on section 14, citizen comments.
Train's coming the other way, so hopefully you can hear me.
Okay.
I'll
I'm
get
gonna
ready
have to
for
talk
it.
to my counselor. Counselor Chase,
Yes.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
and Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Great. Okay. We have completed our task. There's nothing further on the agenda. And I would like to just say to each of you, congratulations. I think that we've knocked off a number of important pieces, and some of which still requires follow-up, but we'll do with that. And I appreciate very much all your hard work and the input we received earlier from Dr. Hunt. That was
Quick question,
yes.
would we need to make a motion to recommend this, or should we make a motion to recommend it for discussion?
Actually, I totally agree with you, Brad. I would think that we should take one further vote, which would be the recommendation to the council for approval of this.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I was just wondering.
Okay.
With us skipping that section, I didn't know if we had to make a motion to discuss it at council level or not. Because we've never really skipped over something yet. You know, I've been here 2 years now, I want to say, on rules, and I don't think we've ever done that. So I was just wondering.
No, I think I'm very glad you caught that. So why don't we take a vote just to approve the recommendation to the council of all of the complete edits to the ordinance.
Yes. I'll make a motion to send recommendation of approval to the council.
I'll second.
Great. All right. And so Debbie, if we could have one final vote on that?
Sure, Counselor Chase,
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
and Counselor Murphy.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, that's great. And I would suggest,
Carlton has his hand up, but it's not public comments.
okay.
I'd make a vote to suspend the rules to let him talk.
Okay,
Can we do that here?
and
I believe we can.
Paul,
I would second.
okay, good. All right, let's just vote on that.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
And,
Thank you.
Carlton? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. Your last discussion, when deemed necessary,
Mhm.
I don't know who's going to make who makes the decision. And I would appreciate it if it would be a decision made in consultation by the town manager and the town council officers, plural. Otherwise, it's left in there. Who makes the decision? The town attorney, the town council. So I think you need to push it just a little bit more. That's my only comment. And I can fill you in on the master plan committee very quickly. That was an entity that came out of the 2002 master plan, where we didn't have a way to implement the Board of Selectmen. This is you got history for all of you. The Board of Selectmen decided they needed someone to help with implementation, so they appointed a master plan implementation committee. I was appointed. I chaired it for years up until 2000, until we became a city. At that time, it became the master plan committee, and the energy committee was separated from that. So that's the history of that. It was designed at that time to support the town in terms of master plan development. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlton.
Okay. Nothing further on our agenda. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. And Debbie, if we could have one final roll call vote.
Counselor McKinnon,
Yes.
Counselor Murphy,
Yes.
and Counselor Chase.
Yes.
3.
Very good.
Yep, meeting
We
over.
thank you very much, Debbie, for all your help tonight. And we stand adjourned.
Good meeting,
Bye,
guys. Have a
guys.
good night.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.